They were often racing with gusto this morning, and while most camels cooperated, others weren't too impressed. Upstairs, it was fine dining for more than 200 people, while trackside, the fashion stakes were high.
How much is about the fashion and how much is about racing? 50-50?
Yeah.
I'd say 80-20.
80-20.
At Honeysuckle, Lara Lupish Designs hit the runway. Fashionistas watched on, while our own Natasha Bayersdorf was left yearning for her matching heel after recently breaking several toes. The Junction Hotel boasted a sea of black and white, and Belmont saw frocks matched with fillies for a special tradition.
This is Barbie, and we made her so that she was going to be bright and colourful and be really fast to be the first one across the line.
Wherever you were, picking the winner was the aim of the day.
I'm not much of a judge, but I like the favourite, number one.
Why's that?
Good Caulfield Cup run.
And some had the help of an expert.
I used to work for a bookmaker years gone by for about 30 years. I'm talking 25 years ago, you know. But and I just do this to fill in for the club, you know. It's great.
And it seems it doesn't matter how old you are, Melbourne Cup Day can be slightly overwhelming, something we seem to forget until next year. Emma Murphy, NBN News.
It's the biggest betting day of the year. Millions of dollars spent and lost around the country. Thousands of experienced and novice punters alike have a flutter on the big race. For most, it's a bit of harmless fun, but for some, it can be particularly tough. A day problem gamblers become very tempted. A day problem gambling can actually begin.
What we often see is money problems, problems with mental health, family breakdown, relationship breakdown.
Experts say the emergence of online gambling is causing real problems. Its take-up is climbing at a rate of 15% a year. Bets can be made with the click of a finger or a swipe of a phone. And for addicts, it can open up a whole new set of issues.
Some of the problems with online gambling is that some companies are unregulated, so they can actually extend massive amounts of credit very quickly to problem gamblers. And because of that, they can bet really big and lose really big.
So while a flutter can be fun, here's some food for thought.
You could win big. You have to remember that you could also lose very big.
Kate Haberfield, NBN News.
The secret to a great film is a great story. Just ask Ian Hamilton. The award-winning director based in Newcastle is one of several professionals running workshops during the Real Film Festival.
We'll kind of look at what's behind the films. How do we get them happening? How do we sell them? And how do we make them? So a bit of a hands-on kind of look at those sort of films.
We've got a load of local Australian leaders in their profession, like William Ward, who's running our sound design, who's an Emmy award-winning sound designer.
3,000 movie buffs are expected to take part in the 3-day event to be held in various locations across the city. It showcases independent films based on true stories and is designed to support and build the local industry by connecting like-minded people.
It's just a chance to come together and talk about the films that you're making and probably give a bit back to people who want to come into the film industry.
Curtains will be raised at 6 o'clock Friday night at the Tower Cinemas with the Australian premiere of Kill the Messenger. Lauren Kelly, NBN News.
It was back to the drawing board today for a Jets side that so far failed to take off. Eliminating lapses in concentration high on the agenda.
It's always the little things sort of that add up to those bigger obstacles and bigger errors that have cost us the goals, really.
On a brighter note, Ben Kantorowski was happy to emerge from the Perth game unscathed in his return from injury.
It sort of did dampen my spirits about playing, but I guess we went back out there and it felt that good that we didn't really have to worry about that too much.
For A-League debutant Alan Welsh, just starting was a welcome surprise.
Found out as we got to the airport Friday that I was going to be starting, and I was really excited, a bit of nerves in that as well. So happy the way I played, but disappointed on the result.
There's every chance he'll retain his spot.
I thought it was absolutely magnificent there in the middle of the park next to Kantorowski.
Newcastle play their first game on home soil this weekend when they take on the Melbourne Victory, and with no wins out of their first 4 games, they come up against a team that's in red-hot form.
Worrying about ourselves and how we want to play, and especially in front of our home fans, we want to go out there and dominate and sort of dictate the play.
Michael Kane, NBN News. Judging by last year's result, dreams can come true after winning the Newcastle Mile.
Bowtide last year won our race and went on to be successful in the Miracle Mile, so the history's there.
Whoever claims this Saturday night's feature event will gain automatic entry into the Miracle Mile, and there's every chance a record time could be set.
It certainly is. It's the feature event of our harness calendar and one of the premier events of the Australasian harness calendar, and they'll go very, very quick on Saturday night in the mile.
The Shane Tritton-trained Suave Stewie Lombo will start as favourite in a field which also includes 4 stablemates.
She'll definitely go with Suave Stewie. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. He's the best horse in my team at the moment, and it's his race to really rise to the occasion.
Marty Monkhauser has drawn barrier 2 and could pose a threat out wide. Today's meeting in Newcastle was also special for Tritton, with Suave Stewie Lombo's brother Megabucks Lombo hitting the track for the very first time.
He's only a year younger than him, and he's having his first start today, so it's certainly hopefully it's a good start for the family.
How do you think he'll go?
I think he can win.
He led early but was run down when it mattered. Michael Kane, NBN News.
There's some animatronics, so people actually see them moving and making noises. There's some amazing skeletons, there's amazing water life. This is an era where dragonflies were like huge, so I think people will really like it.
It's a trophy worth $165,000, but for these mates, it's priceless.
It's a relief, but it's a buzz, absolutely a buzz.
Only hours earlier, it was this moment now etched in the memory of Jamie Lovett and Luke Murrell forever. After only 10 starts, Protectionist took out the $6.2 million race, sending out an ominous warning.
What everyone dreams to do, and for us, look, without being cocky, we knew what a good horse this horse was.
The directors of Rutherford-based Australian Bloodstock have used a punting philosophy right from the start in a bid to one day own a Melbourne Cup winner.
We'd buy a horse for 10,000, win a race for 6 and sell it for 15, and we're just constantly all up and being punters. It's worked.
Well, this is the box that the current Melbourne Cup winner will now call home, because as of today, Chris Lees will be the trainer of Protectionist, which is already at short price odds to win next year's race that stops the nation.
Just let the horse settle in, and Chris really gets a gauge on him really quickly, and we'll have a better idea then.
Yeah, we're born and bred in Newcastle. That's where they wanted the horse to go.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
Construction's begun and the sod's been turned. Just one day after it was announced a Newcastle Baptist Care aged home was closing, another is opening in Rutherford. Opal's decision to expand in the Hunter, an easy one.
We've already got 4 homes nearby and we just can't keep up with demand. The Maitland area is growing rapidly and it's also ageing.
It'll have 144 beds, 4 suites and 32 specialist dementia beds. And at a time when jobs are becoming a rare commodity, this new space will create 150 of them.
$30 million is a lot of money for an injection, but it brings jobs. But most importantly, it brings a lifestyle opportunity for people who are looking at coming into aged care.
Expressions of interest will be welcomed mid-next year, and the company is promising affordability.
40% of the places in this home will be supported. They'll be available to pensioners. We want to make sure that everyone has access.
The home will be open in early 2016. Vivian von Drainen, NBN News. We've all had a bad haircut before, but nothing quite like this. These are the trees on Chatham Road at Georgetown after being paid a visit by Ausgrid.
I think they're disgusting. It was beautiful coming home from work in the afternoon, driving through that canopy down there, and they just look like some disaster's happened in the street.
They are absolutely shocking. I know they had to cut them, but they could have done a better job than what they done.
After being contacted by other residents in the area, Ausgrid sent an arborist to inspect the trimming work, but it was all found to have been carried out correctly, and residents share similar concerns in Waratah and Hamilton South.
They call themselves arborists. I could have done better myself.
Ausgrid says that contractors trim trees to protect the safety of the community and to help prevent blackouts, and the amount trimmed depends on the species of the tree, the voltage of the power lines and whether or not it's in a bushfire-prone area. Vivian von Drainen, NBN News.
We hope we get a little bit of transparency from Council with regard to what they're going to offer the community of Wallsend. We're hoping that they come with a plan for starters. But when you spend $1 million on paperwork, you hope for a great plan.
A room with a view and a precious baby girl. A picture-perfect start to life, made possible by Newcastle Private Hospital's new program. After birth, babies and their mothers spend a night or two in hospital before moving to a suite at the Crown Plaza, where help is on hand 24 hours a day.
The midwives who have been here have been amazing. Like, you just call them anytime, day or night, and they're here at the door and help you out with everything. So, yeah, it's been very, very good. We feel very spoiled.
The arrangement allows fathers to stay by their newborn's side.
It's hard going home the first 2 nights, but I couldn't really stay, really. It wasn't much. Sleep on the floor wasn't really going to do it for me.
The Crown hopes 4-day-old baby Ivy is just the first of many babies to begin life at the luxurious hotel.
I don't want to toot our own horn, but quite seriously, a view from over Newcastle Harbour from a 1-bedroom suite is a very, very different experience to being in a hospital.
The Postnatal Plus program was created to free up hospital beds and to meet a growing demand.
Women were asking for it. Women had heard about it from friends who come from other major cities, Melbourne and Sydney, and we've been asked many times, do we provide this service in the Newcastle area? So it was a project I started working on earlier this year.
Madeline McKell, NBN News.
After testing his skills against the best golfers in the world, the time felt right for Nathan Green to once again call the Hunter home.
It was a big decision. We spent just over 10 years, I think, in the States and in Dallas, and we loved it there and had a lot of good friends, but ultimately we knew we were going to come home.
After pocketing $500,000 for hitting a hole-in-one at the Australian Masters in 2001, Green used the money to fund his way onto the cutthroat American tour.
It just takes that pressure off someone who's starting out. Like that's your biggest issue is getting the funds together to be able to travel. You're probably going to have some years where you might burn $50,000, and early on that's a big hit to take.
Playing in the US Masters at Augusta was a career highlight, while winning the Canadian Open meant just as much.
Probably achieved more than I ever thought I would over there, and obviously to get a win was just a cherry on top really for me.
Currently, he's yet to decide if he'll play on the Asian Tour or in Japan in 2015, but for now the focus is the upcoming Australian PGA, Open and Masters events.
They're the big three. They're the ones you want to do well in, and they're going to be good fields. They're going to be stronger fields. 3 great courses and 3 big events, and hopefully off to a decent start.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
There were a few really tricky questions that took a while to answer, but some of them at the start were quite easy.
A street in lockdown as heavily armed police surround a house at Rutherford, the home thought to be a refuge for 2 suspects.
We received some information early hours of this morning that 2 particular people that we're looking to speak to in relation to a number of very serious crimes in the general Maitland area, Rutherford area in St Ambert may have been at this location.
Nervous neighbours were kept well away from the action.
Just basically a siege, 2 men held up in the house down there.
Woke up this morning, it seemed normal, but yeah, then you get the cop cars, the ambulance, fire.
The 2 men, Michael John Carroll and Kevin Francis Sams, are both wanted over a spate of thefts from drug dealers.
The males we want to speak to are in relation to a number of very serious offences, very violent offences.
But after several hours and a final sweep, it became clear no one was home. While the men may not be inside the premises, police believe they are still in the area and have since widened their search.
We're still receiving information from the community and we're very grateful for the community's help.
Police are warning the public not to approach the men who are believed to be armed and dangerous. Amanda Douglas, NBN News.
The storm rolled in from the southwest. A sky full of bang and bluster that delivered a deluge. NBN viewers captured the scene as golf ball-sized hailstones pummeled Cessnock. At Edgeworth, they were the size of a 20-cent piece. There were lightning strikes and gale-force winds across the Hunter, along with blackouts and flash flooding. Train services were suspended between Fassifern and Broadmeadow, and it's just the start of things to come, according to the SES.
What we're finding is that the community needs to be prepared for these instant and quite damaging thunderstorms that are coming across the Hunter. Last night, not only did we have damaging rain, but we had a number of areas that were affected by hailstones as well.
The SES received 35 calls for help, and this morning volunteers were still cleaning up after the storm.
We've pretty much had a 24-hour period of intense operational activity.
Madeline McKell, NBN News. It's been 7 years since the Pashabolka storm ravaged Wallsend. Fed up and frustrated, the Town Business Association believes Newcastle Council has had more than enough time to deliver its Wallsend floodplain risk management plan. But during last night's information session, business owners say council staff didn't reveal anything new.
Well, there was really no thoughts at the end of it because the report apparently hasn't been finalised and we can't get our hands on it to look at it because it hasn't been officially adopted by the council. So last night was, to my way of thinking, a bit of a waste of time.
Numerous options have been flagged to safeguard the suburb from flooding, but the cost to council of implementing any of those proposals is in the tens of millions.
We've spent over $1 million, and this is what the public's got to realise, in Wallsend they've spent $1 million just on Wallsend doing paperwork without any outcome at all.
Newcastle Council has responded, saying a number of proposed flood mitigation measures are under consideration. Therefore, Council is not able to say what measures will be taken and when, and that the aim is to keep the community informed and involved. Madeline McKell, NBN News.
He's only 12 days old, but already little Patterson has faced a battle like no other. Mum and Dad, Kelly and Daniel Sawyer, say they had no idea something was amiss during their pregnancy until one of Kelly's regular checkups.
It was just a normal 30-week scan that she went to her obstetrician. He saw it straight away and he basically sent us up to the Taree Hospital.
What had been discovered was a very large and very rare form of tumour known as sacrococcygeal teratoma protruding from their unborn baby's tailbone. The couple was sent to Newcastle's John Hunter Children's Hospital. The sheer size and weight of the tumour rarely seen by even the hospital's most experienced paediatric surgeons.
This sort of large tumours none of us have seen, especially in Newcastle in the last 10-15 years.
After a very delicate birth, baby Patterson went under the knife to remove the 1.5 kilogram tumour, a risky operation.
We had a vascular surgeon to control the major vessels which goes to the tumour, and then we were able to remove the tumour without causing any trouble to the baby.
Several days later, and after lots of love, Patterson is on the mend. His doting parents incredibly thankful for their miracle baby.
He's growing in leaps and bounds. He's had no other real problems since the tumour was removed, and yeah, we're looking forward to going home.
Amanda Douglas, NBN News.
This wheelchair will be for disabled people to use on the sand and in the surf to paddle.
Thanks, Mike. Well, just 2 days ago, Luke Morrow was in Melbourne to watch the horse he part-owns through Australian Bloodstock win the most prestigious horse race in the country. He and Newcastle's Jamie Lovett bought into the horse just 4 months ago after trying to buy into him for about 2 years now. I'm joined now with Luke at his home in Aberglasslyn. Luke, how does it feel to be back home with the cub?
It's a feeling that you cannot describe. There's no other feeling in the world, and it's very surreal at the moment, but been a very busy couple of last few days, and glad to be home, but I wouldn't have swapped it for anything.
Yep, now the cup's home, but when can we expect Protectionist to be in Newcastle to be trained under Chris Lees?
Yeah, there's just a little bit of paperwork to do, and we're just going to let him just get back on his tucker and get over the race. He's pulled up terrifically well, and Chris should sort of probably expect him probably Monday. He'll be in his stable, so he's going to come up to the stables at Newcastle and just have a look around and get settled in.
Very exciting. I know it's just early days, but Protectionist is already tipped to be a favourite in next year's race. Can we expect him to go back to back?
Yeah, I see he's the shortest priced favourite for a long time to go back to back. Look, the way he won the other day, there's no reason why he couldn't do it, and he's such a young horse, so yeah, there's certainly that dream already alive to try and go back to back.
Thanks. Well, it sounds like the Cup win is just the beginning of a bright future for Protectionist, and I'm sure the hunter will be keeping a close eye on his future.
I'd imagine he'll have a light autumn. There's plenty of options there, but which way we go, and all geared up towards hopefully having back here for next year's Melbourne Cup.
The appearance probably won't be 100% this week. Over the next few weeks it will be. We've been reassured by Hunter Venues that it will be fine for this weekend's game. We respect his decision at the moment, and we'll make sure we look after him in every way possible.
The female Jets are daring to dream of a final spot.
It's really in our hands whether we take it or not, so we're up for the challenge.
Their biggest challenge will come this weekend when they take on top of the table Perth.
Getting a point, or even I think we should be looking to push for the 3 points. I mean, last time we played them at home, it was we lost 2-1, but I didn't think the score reflected the game at all.
They're not content with just making up the numbers against a side which possesses a Matilda-like forward line of Katie Gill, Caitlin Ford and Sammy Kerr.
Got to stop the supply to them, or you've got to make sure you're marking them quite closely. They're dangerous players, but I mean, look, it's a great test for us. One we're looking forward to.
They've had a great start. I think they've only had one loss this season, and they've recruited quite well, and they're playing some great football as well.
Emily Van Egmond has been in red-hot form since returning to the club.
I love it. Obviously, being home is great. You know, being able to spend time with your family and friends up around the area is great. And yeah, it's been a positive move for me.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
Yeah, I'm just going to have a few weeks off just to rest my body and get, nice and recovered, and then I'll go for 4 times next year. All the routines are improving, the standard's just amazing this year, and each year it's going to get better and better.
We just don't get the publicity, so we don't get the sponsors' dollars coming in. So small scholarships like this really go a long way with us athletes that come from the smaller sports.
They were the decisions planned to change the face of Newcastle. Now they're under the microscope after an explosive ICAC inquiry saw several Hunter Liberal MPs bow out of politics. It fuelled calls for an inquiry into planning decisions, and today that moment arrived.
Well, this is a start. I think there's a lot more to be seen than just this.
First to front the inquiry, Chairman of the Hunter Development Corporation, Paul Broad, and General Manager Bob Hawes. Mr Hawes was accused of having a conflict of interest due to a property he part-owns at Wickham, the same suburb slated for the city's new transport interchange, an issue he says he's always disclosed. Representatives from Newcastle City Council also fronted the inquiry, though their job was made difficult. Council's submission made solely by Council's General Manager Ken Goldthorpe, who was a no-show. Fred Nile also questions Council's view that light rail should not run along the entire corridor, claiming any development along the corridor will also act as a barrier. A second hearing will be held later this month. Emma Murphy, NBN News. It had been all systems go at Blackbutt Reserve until workers hit trouble.
We're actually putting some piles down for sort of footings for the concrete slab, and yeah, we actually found it hit a concrete slab and then went through that and found a really big hole.
That hole turned out to be an unused vertical mining shaft, right where Newcastle Council had been planning to build its new amenities block, a 62-metre deep reminder of the city's mining history. The discovery has thrown a spanner in the works, delaying construction by 3 months and pushing the overall cost of the build to more than $500,000.
We looked at moving the building left and right, up, down, everywhere. But yeah, basically we've invested enough money now, and to fill the hole is probably the safest method for everybody and the cheapest.
While work on the amenities block may have stalled, further up the reserve the new wildlife arena is almost complete. The interactive shelter likely to host its first show early next month.
From when we started the Blackbutt upgrade, which is new shelters, pathways and things like that, it's been fantastic feedback from everybody really.
Amanda Douglas, NBN News.
The big unveiling with so much on the line. A new surface and hopefully a new reputation for the pitch, which was ranked the poorest in the A-League earlier this year.
And it's really important to have a top-class playing surface to match the top-class football that will be on display.
The test will come tomorrow night with the Jets' first home game, and again when the stadium hosts 4 games for the Asian Cup in January.
We're pleased that what we've seen here today is the start. We'll certainly be judged by the players and the events.
Despite concerns, management says future events like the Nitro Circus will not jeopardise the $1.3 million resurfacing job.
No, we don't say no to any events. This is Newcastle, this is an international stadium, and we'd play every day or hold an event here every day if we had the opportunity.
They say it's only a matter of time before the pitch starts kicking goals for Newcastle.
Newcastle could become a hub. I think the more association with Asia through football, to expose this stadium to Asia and the people of the world. I think it's important long term.
Despite criticisms that the grass was laid too late, stadium management says the pitch is ready for the demands of the A-League and pending Asian Cup.
Judge that when they see it tomorrow night.
Georgina Smythe, NBN News.
Came up here like a rocket from Sydney. We've steamed all the way up and we're early most of the way. So yes, they're going remarkably well.
They might have a brand new pitch, but as far as the Jets are concerned, Hunter Stadium is still a home away from home.
It would have been nice to play at Hunter Stadium and have a training session there and get a bit of a assimilation into our own home ground.
The installation of the surface was only completed late yesterday afternoon, and player safety was the concern from the Melbourne Victory coach when he was told today.
From my perspective, if they can't sprint and do things like that, and they can't turn because they're scared of injury, well, it's not safe to play.
The Victory will see the return of gun striker Besart Berisha, who was named in their squad of 18 this morning. But Kevin Muscat's side is one with attacking weapons all over the park.
They've got Milligan, the Australian captain. They've got Valeria, who's played at the World Cups. And the list goes on. Berisha, we don't need to speak about. And actually Thompson has been just an unbelievable servant for both his club, country and himself, to be honest.
Not looking at sitting back, it's time for the Jets to force the issue.
Against Victory tomorrow, we'll be setting ourselves up in a slightly different way. You'll see a more proactive game plan from us.
Joel Griffiths played wide on the right last week against Perth, and with Billy Selesky still out of calculations, it looks as though the stopgap solution will continue.
Joel Griffiths, I think, could play on the left, on the right, behind the strikers up front, and I just spoke to him prior to training there and said that this is what we're going to be doing tomorrow, and it's a job that you know and you understand totally. We need a result.
Michael Kane, NBN News. It was shots like this that took Jeff Ganninan to his first ton of the season. His 125 out of his side's total of 260 paved the way for an important victory over Hamwicks.
It's good to score some runs for the club and more importantly, a good win for the boys there.
The Victory also has the Seagulls on the edge of the top four and looking to continue their form against Charlestown tomorrow.
Good start for the season for the boys, probably the best position we've been in for a while, so yeah, it'll be good to carry that form through.
Ganninan's knock didn't go unnoticed by rep selectors. This week he was named in the Newcastle side, which will look to defend its New South Wales country title in Ballina later this month.
It's always good to be selected in these sides, but hopefully we can carry the form we did last year for Newcastle this year.
In other matches this weekend, the students will look to confirm a top two place on the ladder when they take on West. City are at home to Toronto, Cardiff meet Wallsend, Waratah Mayfield play Belmont, and the Premiers lock horns with Hamwicks. Michael Kane, NBN News.
I will be listening to and paying very much heed to the needs of the people all over Newcastle, particularly looking at the commercial centres that don't get as much attention as they should.
For 89-year-old Charlie Wisniewski, arriving in Newcastle in 1950 marked the start of a better life. With his wife and 2 children on board the Oxfordshire, they made the arduous journey from Poland after the Second World War.
We had 3 rooms in migrant scheme, and we was happy. Today people come up, they're not happy about the country. It's beautiful, yeah.
Someone else who is appreciative of the life Australia has offered is Scottish migrant Charlotte Raitt. She's called Cardiff South home for the past 60 years.
And when we came here, there was plenty of employment and everything was lovely. And my husband had a job the next day from when we came, so we did well, really.
Their unique stories, as well as those of 7 other families, were celebrated today, joined by relatives and friends as the Newcastle Maritime Museum unveiled a 5th plaque on its welcome wall. The wall a permanent reminder of the contribution these migrants have made in shaping not only Newcastle but the nation's history.
After the war and even before the war, we had massive labour shortages, and without these migrants to actually work hard and work for us, we wouldn't be the nation that we are today.
Renee Feder, NBN News.
It was all aboard at Newcastle Station as train enthusiasts took a trip back in time. Steam on the Newcastle line celebrates 85 years of passenger services between Newcastle and Sydney. But today, this train travelled along the rarely seen coal line. It was a novelty for some.
Right into Thomas, so that's why we thought we'd bring him out and go on a steam ride.
And a trip down memory lane for others.
It's always good to have a bit of nostalgia and a bit of heritage running around.
According to its operator, it's just as much fun to drive.
It's lots of fun driving an old train. For starters, the whistle, which everybody loves, and then you always feel the wind in your hair and the sun on your face. It's not like a modern diesel at all.
The locomotive has all the original trimmings, including the engine room.
So it's a lot of hard work. So the first job you have to do is learn how to shovel coal, and lots of it. A big engine like this uses coal. It doesn't matter whether or not it's doing much work.
With plans to truncate the Newcastle rail line at Wickham in December, it's likely that this steam train will be the last one we'll see in the city.
It's just magic. Magic.
Georgina Smythe, NBN News.
We choose a different charity every year, and this year we picked out Soul Cafe because of the work that they do within the community. And I think it's that important. If this place here shut down, the community would really know about it.
If the Knights were looking for a chairman that's more hands-on, they've certainly got one. Brian McGuigan was today formally unveiled as the new head of the Knights Board of Directors.
I'm delighted and I'm very appreciative that the NRL have seen fit to appoint me.
He's looking to rebuild bridges within the community and help secure the future direction of the troubled club.
There have been changes that didn't work out, relationships with the community to be all-encompassing. You know, the fans are just so important. We need everybody to be one team committed to take us from this point to the stars.
He'll head a new 7-person board, which includes former Australian Rugby League boss John Quayle, NIB Health Fund Chief Executive Mark Fitzgibbon and West Group CEO Phil Gardner, adding more speculation that a takeover by the successful Licence Club could be on the cards.
The new board is a reflection of Novocastrians, Newcastle, the Hunter Valley.
And the board has the full support of the CEO.
I think everyone will be really excited at the news. I think certainly personally the calibre of the people on the board is quite remarkable, and I'm really looking forward to working closely with them all.
To create an environment where it's all fun, we have a good time, and we have a good time with the people of Newcastle.
Michael Kane, NBN News. Learning the finer points of the Sevens game was the purpose of a specialist visit.
There's some really talented boys in there, and I think the good thing is they're really keen to learn.
World-renowned Sevens coach Willie Rickards today held a clinic for the Hawthorn Club's academy side in the lead-up to a series of statewide tournaments.
It's sort of put in a whole structure for us with both training and our game approach.
Yes, it's a rugby ball, and yes, it is under the rugby banner, but the games are very different. They're different conditioning, different technical and tactical sort of aspect.
Officials are hopeful that Sevens rugby can one day be incorporated at club level locally.
We've got to remember that the first servant here is the 15s, and clubs hold that very dear in their preparation. If the Sevens can come along and assist with that, then I'm sure we'll get wider club support.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
Brad Luke in campaign mode, working the very path he wants to keep as one of Council's top priorities if elected Lord Mayor. $30 million is being spent on Bathers Way, mainly funded by Council and the state government.
As we stand here, when you see the number of people that go walking past this project and on this path, just drive any morning and see how many people are using it. This is probably the most used facility that Newcastle Council has.
In 2012, a council-run survey found the Hunter Street revitalisation, the Coastal Walk and the upgrade of Blackbutt Reserve garnered the most community support. The redevelopment of the art gallery was last on the list, but Mr Luke claims any Labor state government, if elected in March, would reprioritise the list and put the art gallery on top.
Tim Crackenthorpe came out 2 weeks ago and said, when asked how he was going to fund the art gallery, he said, a Labor council will reprioritise all of the projects that the council is working on to make the art gallery at the top.
But Labor Lord Mayor candidate Nuatali Nelms says every project is important and that they'll be completed in the order that funding becomes available.
It's not very inventive to come up with a program of works that Council agreed to implement in 2012. What he did as a Liberal on Council was actually vote against implementing all those programs like the art gallery.
Vivian von Drainen, NBN News.
Even though we won't get to count every koala, we know that we'll count enough that we'll get a good indication of what areas koalas are in or what areas koalas could be in.
An all-new Hunter Stadium surface, but the same Newcastle Jets.
We need to get to a point where it becomes part of our DNA in knowing how to win a game of football. I think we showed that we're close to that.
Their return to Newcastle couldn't have started any better. After dominating the early play, they soon had the lead. Three minutes later, referee Strebre Delovsky penalised Melbourne for shirt pulling, and Joel Griffiths made it 2-0. However, just as quickly, the Victory were back in the match. A perfect shot from Besart Berisha was blocked, but the follow-up found an unmarked Farhed Benkarfala. That's when the Victory stepped their efforts up, Berisha going inches away from levelling the scores. On the other side of half-time, he didn't need a second invitation. While the result ended as a draw with the league leaders, at today's recovery session, the team was left to rue what could have been.
We've got to make it a force at Hunter Stadium, and we had a great chance to capitalise on that, but we let them into the game.
Despite concerns over the condition of the pitch before last night's clash, the surface today received a pass mark from players.
I think it will get better as the season progresses, but it was a little bit sticky, a little bit sandy underneath.
Samuel Jordan, NBN News.